So let's take a look at that FED map, the Forgiveness Exchange Declaration map. So turn to it, take a look at it. I'm going to cover what's in some of the columns and rows so that it's very clear what's written down on that page and how to interact with it. And how this page starts off is you're just going to ask the Lord, Lord, is there anything that I need to be forgiving someone of? Just let them search your heart and tell you. It may be something from 2 minutes ago. It may be something from 20 years ago. Regardless of what he says, just follow his lead. It's okay. So what you want to write down in that blank is what the offense was. What was the overt action or event? It may be that you had someone cheat on you. It may be that you lost your job and you got certain hang-ups over that. It may be that someone beat you up back in 5th grade. I don't know. Everybody's going to be different. So you want to write down the overt action or event, and then right next to it, you want to write down who was the main party involved. Was it a parent? Was it a friend? Was it a spouse? And you kind of write that down too. And then you skip over and circle or write out if the Lord's telling you to be a DIY, where you need to just go and do this yourself with him, or a DIW, meaning that you need to do this with somebody else. Next thing you want to do is ask the Lord, Lord, when's the right time for me to process this stuff? I know right now we're just covering things, but when you do this on your own or with someone else, just ask the Lord, Lord, when's the right time for me to do this? He may say, hey, look, I want you to go home and do this tonight. Or he may be like, wait for 2 weeks. And he won't even tell you why, but it's better to wait for 2 weeks if that's what he said. Something that I ask people to do whenever I'm working with them is kind of rate their pain on a scale of 1 to 10. A 2 being, it's not a big deal. A 10 being, oh my gosh, I could never forgive this person for what they did. So go ahead and rate that. We're going to come back later and rate it again and see how this process has helped. You can also rate on a scale of 1 to 10 your ability to forgive. So rating the pain and rating the ability to forgive are two different things here. So you don't need to fill in every blank, but if God directs you to it and go, hey, right here, you need to ask this question, then it's there for you. And so the process for getting after that stuff is pretty straightforward. And it's with this, instead of trying to oomph up some kind of feeling that you need to forgive the other person, they simply do this. Lord, I partner with Jesus's forgiveness for so-and-so. I want to release them of all judgment. And so you start off this forgiveness process with going ahead and partnering with the forgiveness that Jesus already has given this person. How cool is that? You don't have to oomph it up yourself. You're partnering with Jesus in that. That's really cool. They also go on to ask this question immediately. Lord, what lie did I believe about myself because so-and-so did this thing? And you can ask them out loud. You can work with your partner. You can work by yourself with that. And then once you hear from the Lord, you simply ask, Lord, what is the truth? And so you're going to write the lie in the first box, and down below, you're going to write out God's response. And you can skip down if you like and just ask, Lord, what lie did I believe about you because this person did this to me? And once you hear, you immediately turn around and go, Lord, what is the truth? Very freeing, very powerful. Matter of fact, I'm quite indebted to another ministry, the Sozo Ministry out in California. They have a very streamlined version of this where when they focus on the first 2 boxes that I've covered, now their training is excellent and I highly recommend it. From there, I pretty much have added these other columns and rows and worked in elements of not just forgiveness, but exchange and declaration. And that's what this whole map is. So let me go on to explain some of the other elements across these columns real quick. Lies. Yeah, the enemy is an opportunist. He totally will throw lies into a hurtful situation. Labels. That's what labels may have we embraced about ourselves. What masks do we wear? What false identities do we have? And they don't always have to be negative. It can be, yeah, man, I am strong, or I'm a performer. You know, that where we take a positive attribute and make it an identity. We got to be careful about that. So sometimes we can overcompensate with positive stuff, but it comes back to some negative wound. Look for those as well. Again, all you need to do is just ask the Lord, Lord, what labels, masks, or false identities have I embraced about myself because so-and-so did this thing? We're going to shift gears on in this column for like tools and strategies, what this is all about. Tools and strategies are the different vices that we've picked up because we went through some bad event. Now, they don't always have to be negative things. They can be real positive looking vices, but if it's based in our own strength and not on our abundance in the Lord, it's probably something that we need to give up. And so what this process is with the exchange has to do with trading it out with the Lord. Lord, what tools or vices or strategies have I brought on because this person did such and so? And it may be that you had a parent that was too harsh. And so one of your strategies may be, avoiding conflict. Another one may be manipulation. It feels like it works, so why give it up? Well, that's not God's best for you. Jesus doesn't manipulate you. He doesn't need that stuff, and you don't either. So the question is, once you realize that you got one of these things that either someone beat you with and you've taken it up and you start doing it out in other people's lives, or maybe you may be like me and just hold on to these vices behind your back, save them for a rainy day. The process for dealing with that is simply asking the Lord, what is this thing? And then the next question is, Lord, if I give you this, if I exchange this with you, what would you give me in exchange? What would you give me in return? And listen to him, see what he says. And that's something that's like, okay, that's pretty awesome. I'm going to write down the tool that I need to give up. And then I'm going to write down what he said he would give me in exchange. Man, I like what I'm hearing. Yeah, God, that's cool. Then you ask him, Lord, what do I need to do to partner with you so that that's a reality in my life? See, in the next column, we have vows. Many times we'll take vows because we got our knees skint over some life event. We're like, man, I'm never going to let that happen again. And so we will lock it down with a function of our will. So it's a combination of judging something or somebody and the power of our will. And we can make a vow out of that. Usually it starts with, I will do this, or I will never do that. And it could be something as simple as, I will never trust this type of person again, or I will never be hurt again, or I'll never let someone see me cry. And those are very, very powerful anchors. You got to be careful with that vow thing. The process with dealing with a vow is real simple, straightforward. Lord, what vow have I taken because so-and-so did this to me? And just listen to see what he says. And so you would renounce that. Lord, if I gave up this vow to you, what would you give me in exchange? And many times a vow will feel like a strategy, and it's kind of like a little bit of overlap in there. But we went ahead and made its own column. The next column over has to do with needs. And this is where you get to do exchange and declaration. You'll probably see a pattern of what need was being addressed by these behaviors. So you kind of ask the question, Lord, what need was I trying to compensate for with these behaviors or vows or lies that I believed or what have you? What need is really needing to be addressed here that I'm trying to do in my own strength? And listen and see what the Lord says. And then you look and try to look and see what the opposite is. So if it's self-protection, then the exchange is going to be God is my protector. This is an excellent opportunity for the different roles that God can play, or the different names of God. For those of you who have done studies with that, this is a perfect application for that. So you look at the need, what need wasn't addressed, and then you come down and just say, Lord, I declare that you are my fill in the blank, whatever it is. I'm going to rely on you and your resources for that instead of my own strength. And it can be something really simple. It can just be having a good friend. Some of us don't have quality friendships. And so you can, hang on to that disappointment. Or you can say, Lord Jesus, I need friends. I need a good friend. Would you please bless me with some friends? And in the meantime, would you be my best friend? I declare that you are my friend. I'm agreeing with Scripture. I welcome this into my life. Those are the different columns. The emotion column we're going to save for last. And what that is truly something that you're going to fill out after you've done business with God on these different exchanges. As you move down these rows, at the end of the whole process, you go back and you look at the emotions that may be still anchored down on these subjects. And you ask the question, hey, do I have peace in my life now when I think about this row that has to do with me? Am I good here? What emotions are still in play? Are you still mad? Are you still angry? Are you still regretful? Are you still fearful? So you kind of use this as a finishing thermometer here, where you're trying to get an idea of what emotional state is still here. And then the perfect move, in my opinion, is you take those emotions and you ask the Lord, Lord, what am I feeling right now? Hey, we're back at that emotional compass. I don't know if all y'all caught that or not. So you basically use the emotional compass in this last column as a final check. All right, so let's look at some of these other rows real quick. Underneath myself, you got all the spaces for the exchange. What has God told you? And you can put a little check mark if you've done business on it. Or if you're like, I hear what God's saying, but I'm having a problem with this. Well, you might just want to put a little X for right now, so you can come back and deal with it further later. The next column down is God. You know, what lies did I believe about you, God, because this person did this to me? All right, Lord, what is the truth? And when you hear it from Him, it's radically different than hearing it from somebody else. Then you go into the next column and just ask, Lord, what label have I given you? We've got all these questions in your workbook already lined out, so I'm not going to cover every one, but I do want to cover what each little row is all about. Okay, the next one is the role of the offender. And this is something that I've added into this mix because it used to be that we used a really simple approach, and then it occurred to me that sometimes we can still have hang-ups on certain roles. Like, let's say that you had a problem with a parent and you needed to forgive them, and you did it, but later on you're still like, you know, a little edgy about what you believe is a Christ-following parent. Let God speak to that. So in this row, you want to just ask the Lord, Lord, do I have any hang-ups with the role that this person had? Do I have any hang-ups with the specific person themselves? Do I still need to release them from judgment? And truthfully, when you go through this whole process, after you're done with that whole sheet, usually it releases you so much that you're like, hey man, I got no beef with this anymore. You know, what they did was too bad. You know, I wish they didn't do that, but I don't have the emotional pain here anymore. Yeah, sure, let's forgive them, Lord. That's not a problem. The next one down is the role of the recipient. This is an interesting question. Sometimes we're the recipient, and sometimes we're a third party to seeing some form of abuse. It may be that the dad was abusing the mom, and so you're forgiving dad for doing this to mom. Dad was the offender, the mom was the recipient. Lord, is there any lies I believed about being a good wife or being a good mom because of what I witnessed, because of what I saw? And that's just one scenario. You know, you can fill it out however you like, but that's what explains the role of the recipient or that person. Lord, is there any lies I believe about this person? Okay. Lord, what is the truth? Lord, are there any labels I put on this recipient? Did I label them as weak? Did I label them as, you know, whatever? How have I judged them? Salient questions. Lord, what lies do I believe about that action that occurred in general, or the object that was used, or the vice that was used? Do I believe that manipulation is okay? Do I believe that, you know, doing the abuse that was done to me was somehow okay, or it's okay under certain circumstances? Just a form of question. It doesn't even have to be abuse per se, but you want to kind of ask the Lord, Lord, do I have any hang-ups over this? Do I have any lies that I believe here? And finally, just to make sure we got it all covered, we just ask the Lord, Lord, is there anything else that we need to address here? Are there any other ways that the enemy could have put a snare there? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the FED tool and the map that we have for using it, having the ability to learn how to use forgiveness and exchange and declaration to move forward spiritually over hang-ups. That's some powerful stuff. Now, I know that was a big chart. It may be a demanding process for some of you guys to even go through some of this. Maybe that you do some of it and come back to it later. It may be that you do it, you feel really free, you feel really good, and then weeks later you realize that, oh, I still got a few little ouchies here related to this past thing that I thought I got forgiveness and exchange and declarations with. You know, what we're doing here is we're removing logs out of our eyes. And though we've moved this giant log out of our eye, and this was a big deal spiritually, and there's a lot of freedom with it, sometimes later on you'll notice that, oh, ouch, I got a little bit of a splinter right here. You know, and that splinter can feel just as big and painful as that log, because the log's gone. Now our sensitivity is shifted, and we're feeling like, ow, that little thing there. Again, that's God's grace for you for getting these little things that can give us knee-jerk reactions out of our system, as a way of partnering with the Lord and growing closer with Him as we walk this stuff out. Pray for the ministry that is walking you guys through this, whether it be for your small group or your church, because the enemy hates this stuff. It is exposing his tricks. It exposes his darkness. It exposes the ways that he keeps you bound up and acting like a marionette puppet because he's pulling on your strings. It's time to cut those cords. It's time to pull up those anchors and move forward in the ways that God has designed you to go for, because He has destiny for you. He has a plan for your life. Love you. Bless you. We'll catch you later.